Welcome to Hoystory on Air, Season 1, Episode 13, I think. I'll double check. It is late night here on the West Coast on Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. Watching some college basketball. Didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but hey, double overtime. Interesting game. Got a lot to go over today. For those of you who are subscribe on my Substack, free or paid, you got a little preview of what I'm going to talk about today, and an early reading from my forthcoming, hopefully, book. So we're going to do that again here on video. Let's go to the news. So, first story here. Jeffrey Epstein, big deal today. House passed a vote to release all of his documents. Apparently the Senate's going to do the same thing. Trump's going to sign it. This is all just show, because Trump could release this on his own if he wanted to. I'm not a big Epstein fanatic. I think the guy's dead. Not sure there's much more that can be done to him. The thing that's kind of struck me is in recent days you've seen Democrats releasing some selected documents that showing that Epstein didn't like Donald Trump. That kind of puts him on your side, guys. Probably not the thing you want to be bragging about. So here is a piece by Rich Lowry over at National Review, The Epstein Conspiracy in Plain Sight. This is a good take on it, I think. He makes the point that an element of the American elite embrace Epstein as one of its own, even after his guilty plea, thanks to his wealth and connections. It's not what you know, it's who you know, even if you may have committed terrible crimes, Lowry writes. That's the Jeffrey Epstein version of the famous line about success. The massive tranche of Epstein emails released by the House Oversight Committee didn't reveal any smoking guns about Donald Trump, but it did highlight a vast conspiracy to help the disgraced financier thrive despite his guilty plea to sex charges involving a minor in 2008. This conspiracy wasn't the work of the deep state or Israel or the Jews. No, it was more pedestrian and damning than that. An element of the American elite embraced Epstein as one of its own thanks to his wealth and connections. Want to know more about the reputation of a woman you are having an affair with? Seeking advice on how to gain political influence in Europe? Wondering how you're handling your interactions with a potential mistress? Looking for insights about Donald Trump? Trying to survive sexual harassment allegations? Need a reference for a gastroenterologist? Well then, ask Jeffrey Epstein. Now Lowry goes through some names. He emailed with former Harvard President Larry Summers, Democrat. The linguist Noam Chomsky, big left-wing guy. Venture capitalist Boris Nikolic, Emirati businessman Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, Trump activist Steve Bannon, the journalist Michael Wolff, the artist Andres Serrano, department store scion Jonathan Farkas, and former White House counsel Catherine Rumler. She was Obama's, among others. Again, this is not. This damns all of you politicos in Washington. I don't, the whole lot of you are dirty, and let's see how dirty you are. The Washington Post put up this nice little video. I think it's very telling. Note the terminology here. Jeffrey Epstein was texting with Delegate Stacey Plaskett. She's a delegate, Democrat from the Virgin Islands. She can't vote. She's up there to make people in the Virgin Islands feel like they've got some sort of say. They don't have any say. Same with, Eleanor Holmes Norton. I think there was a old Daily Show report where they're interviewing Eleanor Holmes Norton, and the bell rings for a vote. And the Daily Show guys are, well, do you need to go? And it's like, no, you don't need to go. You can, your vote doesn't count because out of state. Let's take a listen to this. This is great. I'm wondering if it didn't save the audio when I saved this. Let's try this again. Oh, maybe there's no audio yet. That's possible. Let's try it again.
This was when Barack Obama was president of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago, he commented that only black people could live that way. Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are going to review that. Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Question, you helped out the president's campaign or were involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman, even in your words today. It was your idea for the campaign dating back to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump Organization?
They
and
are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
You got to quickly give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
As Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot that went on.
I want to pause this for a minute here because this is just great. So they declined to answer questions before they posted this. After the story published, and this is last Friday, during the hearing, Congresswoman Plaskett received texts from staff, constituents, and the public at large offering advice, support, and in some cases, partisan vitriol, including from Epstein. Let's be clear here. Partisan vitriol wasn't from Epstein. It was the advice and support. And maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe the Virgin Islands is a really tight-knit community where all of her constituents have direct access to her cell phone and its text number and text her all the time about, the neighbor's dog that starts barking at 5 a.m. in the morning. Well, we should let Delegate Plaskett know. Give me a break. We're supposed to believe this stuff. I don't believe it. Let's go here. Well, we got anything else? As a former
why should Americans trust you and House Democrats?
Sorry, it's late at night. As a former prosecutor, she welcomes information that helps her get at the truth and took on the GOP that was trying to bury the truth. The Congresswoman has previously made clear her long record combating sexual assault and human trafficking, her disgust over Epstein's deviant behavior, and her support for his victims. I'm sorry. She was texting back and forth with him. Who was the bigger person? Who did she really want to get? She wanted to get Trump. She didn't care about Epstein. They already knew about Epstein. Epstein was, being investigated by the feds at this time, but he'd already, as Lowry noted in that piece earlier, he'd already been charged with, in 2008 with doing this. They knew what they had with Epstein. Go figure. Let's move on. This is great. So this was yesterday. This is Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. He is asked about should Ms. Plaskett be texting back and forth with his with I believe the term is, it's not appropriately pedophile, it's like FFI, it's, post-pubescent but still underage girls. Let's see what Mr. Jeffries has to say.
Why should Americans trust you and House Democrats on the Jeffrey Epstein files when one of your own, Congresswoman Plaskett, was found to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing, getting information from him, using that in her questioning during a congressional hearing, and at one point he tells her, "Good job."
This is a bipartisan effort to make sure that, consistent with what the survivors have requested, that there's full and complete transparency, and every single predator who may be in those Justice Department files doesn't escape accountability.
There you go. It's a masterclass. That's a masterclass on, I'm not going to answer that question. And I am just going to repeat my little spiel, and yeah, that's, he's an accomplished politician. That's I guess the right way to do it as a politician. Is it honest? Is it forthright? Is it forthcoming? No, it's none of those things. And why would he behave this way? I don't know why he would behave this way. Let's move on to the next one and see. Maybe we'll find out why he behaves this way.
Colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation. With that, I yield back.
Mr. Gentleman's back. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we reserve. The gentleman reserves.
So,
the gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yeah, this is all about, I mean, they weren't offended by, the charges, because this is 2013. This is 5 years after it came out that he was, screwing around, excuse the phrase, with underage girls. And they can still get money from him. That's all they care about. He's a big donor. So this, and Republicans tried to remove Plaskett from the House Intel panel over these texts. Why they have her on any serious panel, I've got no idea. She can't vote. She's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Frankly, very few of them are. But they had the vote tonight. It failed. Every single Republican, with the exception of 3, voted to remove her, with the exception of 3 who voted no and 3 who voted present, and every Democrat voted to keep her. No censure there, which, rumors going around are that Republicans are, the 3 Republicans or the 6 Republicans, some number of them that made it so it didn't pass, did that because they're covering for a Republican who's under ethics committee scrutiny or something. You shouldn't do that. Let the chips fall where they may. But this is just, neither party, I think, starts looking good on this. And Democrats, the idea that, Trump wanted to keep these documents hidden because they make him look bad. President Biden colluded with state and federal prosecutors to try and get Trump put in jail before the 2024 election so he couldn't, run again. The idea that that if there was something in these documents that was truly damning to Trump and they wouldn't have released it when they had all that power, I'm sorry, you can't believe that honestly, and you're letting your Trump derangement syndrome just overwhelm just common sense. So hopefully, that'll all come out. I don't think there's going to be much in there because most of this stuff has come out before. We'll see these documents. I think there are people on both sides of the aisle that are going to look really bad. And then you're going to get these conspiracy theorists. So, they're only releasing it now because they've managed to lose all the truly damning stuff. Don't believe that either. Those sorts of conspiracies take a lot of people, and they never hold together. It's the old joke about the JFK conspiracy theorist who dies, goes to heaven, and the first thing he asks he asks God. He says, God, who really killed JFK? And God says to him, it was Lee Harvey Oswald from the third story of the Texas Book Repository using a Carsano rifle. He acted alone. There was no CIA connection. There was no FBI connection. No foreign government. Nothing. It was him acting alone. And the guy looks at God and says, "Wow, this goes higher up than I thought." Yeah. Let's move on. Again, this is what I kind of talked about a little bit on this morning for my Substack subscribers. I'm going to try and probably do Substack first a lot of the time with some of this stuff, just so you guys go over there and sign up. And if in the goodness of your heart you feel maybe a paid subscription's a good idea, go for it. This is me encouraging you to go for it. So, high-speed rail. This is an absolute joke. So, the high-speed rail authorities suing to get their $4 billion that Trump clawed back when he took office that had been granted to the high-speed rail authority, but they had gotten but the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, I believe, said that they'd violated a bunch of regulations as far as actually getting stuff done. And so they clawed it back. So they're suing. The interesting part about this particular case is that the argument the feds are making is that they're in the wrong court. The feds are saying that this shouldn't be in regular U.S. District Court because it was a grant type thing, and the proper venue for those disputes is the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. This is over my head, this legal argument. I think, though, if they do that, if the judge says yes, it should be in Federal Court of Federal Claims, they'll re-sue there. This is not the end of it. I bring that up because I had a couple of interesting news pieces in the last week, and these kind of connect in with a section of my book on fact checking. But let's bring you up to speed on this. So, the head of the California High-Speed Rail Authority says that they're going to start getting private funds next year. He's saying they're going to whether to start vetting investors and soliciting that. So, is it coming? It's coming next year, mid-2026. It's a move that could speed construction and reduce reliance on taxpayer dollars, but might also require changes to a California law that mandates first building the train from Merced to Bakersfield, a segment the rail authority says will lose money, and is less attractive to investors than one that includes Gilroy and Palmdale. It's great. Chowdhury told the Fresno Beat investment group could use its own money to build a segment of the railway and then operate and maintain it. The rail authority would reimburse investors with state money, and then later investors can draw repayment from ticket sales and other revenues from the operation of the train and its properties. The idea is that eventually operations revenue, not just tax dollars, is paying for construction. Lost that. Let's try that again. I hit the wrong button and everything goes to pot. Let's get to the right place. Okay. So, sorry for that little goof. It's an idea. If the money's there, if you can get ridership, then maybe it's worth building it. This isn't gonna fly. The agency in September secured $20 billion from state's Cap and Invest program through 2045, which will be doled down at $1 billion per year. So 2045, they're getting $1 billion. So let's make this clear. It's not going to be done by 2045. I suspect strongly that the Merced to Bakersfield line is not going to be done by 2045, let alone getting to San Francisco and LA. It's not going to happen. Follow up a couple days later. High-speed rail once changed to law that requires priority on Merced Bakersfield line. Thinks that's going to be more profitable. They want to start building along routes such as Madera to Gilroy. Well, that's farther north than Merced. Farther north, farther east. Farther north? Anyways, to Gilroy, but Gilroy gets you closer to San Jose. So it gets you closer to Silicon Valley. I'm not sure how much is happening Madera to Gilroy. Again, this is... Don't hold your breath on any of this. Chowdhury says the agency could secure a partnership with private firms by the middle of next year, but investors are likely to want to focus on rail segments with greater ridership predictions than Merced Bakersfield. And then it's not clear yet how the rail authority will propose the legislature change the current law. In its August report, the agency said state lawmakers could remove or adjust the spending cap on work outside the Central Valley. Now, here's the thing. There's a reason why the legislature passed this law focusing on the Merced to Bakersfield line. And that's a simple reason, for a simple reason. They thought they could get more money down the line and continued public support, although anyone with two brain cells to rub together doesn't support this anymore, unless they're getting paid or money from it. Was to get the train running somewhere and showing that it could work. Now, as they say, it's not going to make money. It's by law, the thing's supposed to make money. We're not supposed to be funding this and subsidizing these forever. The bill that was sold to the bill of goods that was sold to the public when they passed this thing was, this is to get the thing built, and then it's going to run on its own. We're not going to have to continue funding it. We're not going to have to continue subsidizing it. There would be, private money coming in. Not happening. Not happening. So, this brings me to my book, Fact-Checking Frauds. How fact checkers distract, deceive, and distort our politics. I did an excerpt from it back in an earlier episode here. We'll see. It was too much of a pain in the butt to copy and paste the whole thing into a PowerPoint slide. So I'm not going to do that this time. What I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to read it to you. I'll look over here because I got it on the other screen. And this is fact-checking, and this is how they work. This is from Chapter 9, Fact-Checking Predictions or Hopes Without Waiting to See What Actually Happens. California's high-speed rail boondoggle and the truthometer. In 2008, California voters approved Proposition 1A, the Safe, Reliable, High-Speed Passenger Trail Bond Act. By a margin of 53% to 47%, voters authorized the issuance of $9.95 billion in general obligation bonds to build the initial Los Angeles to San Francisco line. The plan voters approved promised bullet trains traveling at more than 200 miles per hour, with a trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles, Union Station, to take no more than 2 hours and 40 minutes. Total cost for the system, which would eventually extend south to San Diego and up the state's Central Valley to the state capital, Sacramento, would cost $45 billion and would be funded with a combination of state, federal, and private funding. The debacle that has become California's high-speed rail project is worthy of a book-length treatment on how the state has wasted billions of taxpayer dollars over more than a decade, with no sign of the promised connection between the state's two largest metropolitan areas. Now slated to open in 2031, 9 years later than first promised, and estimated to cost between $29.8 billion and $32.9 billion for just the initial Central Valley segment, the High-Speed Rail Authority's credibility on completion timelines, ridership estimates, and everything in between is shot. What interests us here is a 2015 by PolitiFact's California affiliate that there's plenty of interest in financing the long-delayed and illegally downsized initial segment from Merced to Bakersfield, which was originally supposed to connect Merced to Burbank, by private interests. In an article that appeared in the Los Angeles Times in November 2015, State Assemblyman Jim Patterson was quoted as saying the rail authority, quote, failed to disclose huge cost overruns, and after they boasted private firms were interested in funding the project, we now know these firms are unwilling to put up any private money. PolitiFact's California affiliate headlined their analysis, "Is the private sector unwilling to fund California's bullet train?" and determined that Patterson's claim was mostly false. Of course, at the time, they'd gotten zero public funding. This is 2015. We're in 2025. Now, or private funding. That was 2015. We're in 2025. Middle of 2026, they're going to say, we're going to go out to investors and we're going to try and get some private funding. But not on this segment because it's a money loser. Then why are we doing this segment? Back to the book. PolitiFact pointed out that the report that prompted Patterson's statement had sought only, quote, advice, not money, from a variety of companies and quoted representatives of two of the companies that emphasized that their failure to offer to help fund the venture at this point, 2015, early in the project's development, didn't mean they wouldn't be interested later on. One of the firms quoted defending the idea that the future private sector money was a possibility was AECOM. 7 years later, the company, 2022, the company would announce it was leading a joint venture to provide program management support for the project. Instead of putting its own money into the project, it was being paid taxpayer dollars to help run it. Another company defending the idea that private funding would be forthcoming, Siemens Industry, is a maker of high-speed trains and would eventually be a potential supplier of the high-speed rail program. It's understandable that neither company would want to help snuff out the project in its cradle when they could eventually benefit financially from continued taxpayer funding of it. Also quoted was Lewis Thompson, chairman of the California High-Speed Rail Peer Review Group, who said that Patterson's claim, quote, isn't strictly correct, and, quote, what the private sector has said is that it is not willing to take many of the risks that the project would entail as of now. In his defense, Patterson pointed to an extremely skeptical Bloomberg News article that included the prediction that the state would have to subsidize operations of the railroad for at least a decade, something prohibited by Prop 1A, and quoted the advice from Spanish infrastructure building company Sintra S.A. as saying that, quote, it is doubtful there is enough capacity in the debt markets for this type of project. As you saw in the last chapter, the benefit of the doubt tends to benefit Democrats to the detriment of Republicans, which is why, despite all the evidence to the contrary, even this early in the project's history, and when I'm saying early, we're 7 years in at the point this article comes out. The final analysis directs skepticism only in one direction and rests heavily on the idea that the firms had not yet been asked to contribute funding in the program, yet. As I write this in May 2025, nearly 9 years after the PolitiFact fact check, have we progressed to the point that private funding is coming in? No, we have not. In fact, the most recent funding plan from the California High-Speed Rail Authority includes not a single dime of private funding for the initial Central Valley stretch of the railroad. And note that these stories note these stories coming out today, or this past week, this will continue to be the case. They're trying to get people to pitch in funding for other segments that aren't in the Central Valley. Good luck with that. Instead of just an analysis of the challenges faced and honestly presenting the two sides, a fact checker decides they must determine the truth about what is a claim that is likely to take place in the future. And again, the Republican gets some variety of false. 9 years later, there is still no private funding and little indication of when, if ever, it might appear. Hilariously, the story does note that Dan Richard, the chairman of the rail authority at the time, told Capital Public Radio that, quote, opening of the initial Burbank to Merced's operating segment in 2022 could be delayed. They're saying this in 2015. Could be the initial operating segment in 2022 may be delayed. Since it's 2025 and not a single train has been purchased nor segment of rail actually laid, it looks like that's one prediction that has come true. Again, now they're saying 2031. I'll believe that when I see it. So that's a little taste of my book. While I was going through this, this is great. So I was curious, how much have they spent so far? And I believe the number's 20-something billion. And again, it's looking for 30 for just this segment. But this is from last year. This is a Newsweek fact check. California's fact check says California spent $11 billion on a high-speed rail stretch. And this was the High-Speed Rail Authority put out this thing on social media. Hey, we did this aqueduct thing, Fresno Aqueduct, and it costs, and this is where some of the money is going. And some nobody on X/Twitter connected two things that weren't connected, saying that the all $11 billion was spent on this quarter-mile stretch. That's not the case. But this is hilarious. So this is the fact check. California's high-speed, Tom Norton, he's based in England. I clicked on his name. He's in England. California's high-speed rail development currently projected to cost $135 billion. And that's the new number. Well, the number I just said was supposed to be 33. Now, latest numbers are about 135, and it's climbing all the time. It's set to connect the state's major cities with trains traveling up to 220 miles per hour. The first stretch of the project, which has been in the works since 2008, is due to be completed by 2030, connecting passengers from Los Angeles and San Francisco in less than 3 hours. No! This is wrong. You failed, Tom Norton. Bad reporter. Go back to your room. The 2030, that's Bakersfield to Merced. That's not LA to San Francisco. I mean, this is another theme that I talk about in my book, is that you get, and Tom Norton looks like a fresh-faced young man. A lot of these fact checkers hire kids straight out of college or something who've got no experience in anything. This guy's in England. He hasn't been around long. First off, this is a mistake you shouldn't have made. Who's his editor? And all sorts of wrong things. I'm going to have to add this to the book because it's just so bad. So bad. That's your high-speed rail. I mentioned this on on the audio version I did earlier today, again, over at the hoystory.substack.com. Go there, subscribe, because you get something that's not here, and you get it first. I made a promise, and I'm going to repeat that promise here. And as you can probably tell, I could use the exercise. If they get funding commitments from businesses next year that are real funding commitments, not, oh, if we get this, oh, if we get that. If somebody comes in and says, I'm going to spend $1 trillion for Gilroy to Madeira. If that happens, I will walk from Bakersfield, where it starts, this first segment is supposed to start, all the way up to Merced, where it stops. And I will live stream the entire thing. And I will probably lose weight, because that's a lot of walking. But it's mainly flat. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'll be able to sit at home, watch football or something. This is ridiculous. Deep breath. Got a few more things. These ones should be short, hopefully. Gonna bang, 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 really quick hit them. Zohran Mamdani is the mayor-elect of New York City. People of New York, you have voted, you have spoken. You deserve to get what you want, good and hard. So Mamdani sat down with ABC 7 there in New York for a little interview, and we got this beaut of a video for you. Take a listen.
You said you would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu based on the 2024 International Court Arrest Warrant. Next UN General Assembly, as mayor, would you do that?
So I've said time and again that I believe this is a city of international law, and being a city of international law means looking to uphold international law, and that means upholding the warrants from the International Criminal Court, whether they're for Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Putin. I think that that's critically important to showcase our values, and unlike Donald Trump, I'm someone who looks to exist within the confines of the laws that we have. So I will look to exhaust every legal possibility, not to create my own laws to do so.
On the other hand, this is also a world event. Does that not count a little bit?
Well, I think we are a global city, but I also think what New Yorkers are looking for is consistency in the way in which we talk about our values and follow through on them. And that's why I think these warrants from the International Criminal Court, they are worth fully exploring every legal possibility to actually follow through on.
So let's get this straight. Zohran Mamdani wants to enforce international law, and we, as here in the United States, have steadfastly refused to sign on to that International Criminal Court, because in past years they've talked about arresting U.S. troops based on things that have been done in war at the behest of the government. They've floated arresting George W. Bush. These are a bunch of left-wing nut jobs. But that's the kind of law Zohran Mamdani wants. Again, New Yorkers, you deserve what you get. So he wants to enforce international laws, which people here in the U.S. have no say over. We didn't elect any of those people. What kind of laws doesn't he want to enforce? Well, let's take a look. Zohran Mamdani, speech June 24th, 2025, upon winning the Democratic primary. This was his victory speech. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism, to stop ICE agents from deporting our neighbors, and to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party, a party where we fight for working people with no apology. He wants to enforce international law, but he doesn't want anybody enforcing U.S. law in the U.S. That's not going to work out well for him. The advice to service members and police and all sorts of things are going around a lot now. I might touch on that tomorrow. A bunch of, just to tell you what I'm referring to, a bunch of Democrats released some sort of TikTok video warning people in the military not to obey unlawful orders. Probably not a good idea, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, our military members have a duty to reject unlawful orders. The problem is, odds are that they're going to get an unlawful order from Donald Trump. Highly unlikely. And if you start, spewing this stuff, you're going to get a bunch of people who aren't as worldly or aren't as wise as you are in trouble. Don't do it. So, New York City police, don't try and arrest Bibi Netanyahu. Don't try and do it. Bad idea. Bad. Few quick things. I saw this came across my Twitter feed today, and it just blew my mind. So this is Christian Broadcasting Network. This actually happened about a year ago. Judge orders Maine mom not to take her daughter to church or read her the Bible. If you were wondering, yes, this is a custody type dispute type story. So this is before the Maine Supreme Judicial Court. They heard arguments last week. Basically, woman never married the father. Woman's a Christian. Kid turns 12 years old, been going to church, decides she wants to be a Christian, and tells her father, and her father not happy with that. Father sues, gets an ACLU judge, that's the term I think they used here in the story, or ACLU sociologist, who basically said that, here it is, second to last paragraph. Liberty Counsel contends the father found an ACLU judge and flew in a Marxist former sociology professor from California to testify that Calvary Chapel, or any Bible-believing churches for that matter, are cults that are psychologically detrimental. The district court judge, who should probably be removed from the bench, sided with Ava's father and found that Bickford is a fit parent except for the fact she's a Christian. You're a fit parent, but you're a Christian, so we can't have that. It's Calvary Chapel. This is not some crazy outside the mainstream, mainstream churches or mainline churches or something different. But this is not some weird Christian cult. Calvary Chapel is these guys. If you saw the Jesus Revolution movie, these are the guys that started the Calvary Chapels. Bunch of 1960s hippies. And we got a judge. Oh, they're a cult. Give me a break. The judge ruled that Bickford could not take her daughter to any church unless the father approved of it. Liberty Counsel claims the order is so broad that if enforced, it can make it so the young girl cannot associate with any of her church friends or any member of Calvary Chapel, Portland. If she meets new friends and they decide to attend the church, she would have to cut ties with them. She can't attend any Christmas, Easter, or any Christian event or celebration of the church, including weddings, funerals. She's not allowed to have contact with any religious organization nor read the Bible or religious literature. This needs to get overturned toot sweet. And again, somebody remove this judge, because this is, you gotta be kidding me. Seriously. Nutso. Moving on to the next part of the religious beat. So this is via Carol Markowitz on X/Twitter. She got this from someone who attended an interfaith event at City College in New York. She recounts, yesterday City College hosted an interfaith program intended to bring students of all backgrounds together in dialogue and mutual understanding. Unfortunately, what unfolded was deeply troubling for many who attended. During the program, one of the invited speakers, an imam, refused to begin his remarks while I was present, stating he would not speak in front of Zionists. I suspect, I'm going to go out on a limb here, I suspect he didn't know if she was a Zionist. It's kind of tough to tell. I suspect he may have known she was a Jew. There's where the problem is. His comments quickly escalated into inflammatory and openly anti-Semitic rhetoric, including statements about cutting off the fingers of the rich, along with other remarks that had no place in a space intended to foster respect and learning. Instead of an interfaith dialogue, the speech shifted into a conversion-style message that made many attendees, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim alike, deeply uncomfortable. At the end of his speech, the imam turned toward me directly and verbally attacked me, saying he was disgusted that a Zionist is here, and accusing me of personally being, quote, responsible for the murder of his brothers in Gaza. Ladies and gentlemen, most of those people killed in Gaza were Hamas. So if he's claiming them to be his brothers, well, you figure it out. He then told the students, if you are a good Muslim, you should walk out now. Nearly 100 students wearing keffiyehs stood up and exited the event at his instruction. 2 Jewish students and approximately 20 Christian students remained stunned by what had occurred. When the program concluded, security paused the exit of the remaining attendees until they could ensure our safety, as a large group had gathered outside. We were eventually escorted out with the assistance of campus security. I want to emphasize clearly our concern is with one individual's extremist rhetoric, not with Islam, not with Muslim students, and not with interfaith engagement itself. Well, if 100 Muslim students, and the way this kind of sounds like it's described, it sounds like all the Muslim students left, and left Christians and a couple Jews. You got a problem with some Muslim students too. I hate to break it to you. We remain committed to building bridges across communities and creating spaces where all students feel respected and safe. City College leadership is fully aware of what occurred, and we know they will respond appropriately. Oh, child. Oh. It's nice to look at the world through rose-colored glasses and think that everything is unicorns and rainbows, but not the way the real world is. I wouldn't hold my breath on them responding appropriately. Our shared goal is to ensure the future interfaith program truly reflects the values of dignity, dialogue, and mutual understanding that our campus deserves. Harmeet Dillon, the Justice Department Civil Rights Division, take a look. Keep an eye on on if the City College leadership responds appropriately, because I got a feeling you're going to probably need to sue them too, or at least have a excuse the phrase, come to Jesus talk. Move on again to the trans stuff. So, Ann Arbor Skyline has a male boy who says he's a girl on their girls volleyball team. They are making it to the, not sure if this is Final Four or Elite Eight or something. They're in the state volleyball tournament. The Byron Center, who's going to be facing Skyline, athletic director Brady Lake said the biggest threat to BC advancing in the state high school volleyball tournament is not a male opponent, but potential protests by parents who believe Skyline has an unfair advantage. Skyline does have an unfair advantage. The biggest threat to advancing is losing, and the odds are that you are going to, I won't say this, ladies, if you beat them, great. But they have an unfair advantage. Okay, it's the quarterfinals. I don't understand. So yeah, quarterfinals. So there's 8 teams left. Schools with transgender. And this is the interesting part. This guy. Let's go back a couple. What's his name? Dan Zakrzewski. Dan's been doing a great job. Okay. In Michigan, schools with transgender athletes who are born male and want to compete on a high school girls team in Michigan must apply for and receive a waiver from the MHSAA, Maine High School Sports Athletic Association, something like that, to be eligible for postseason competition. The organization told Outkick in September it had not granted any waivers since last fall, and waivers have to be approved every year, but has ignored multiple follow-up requests asking if one has since been granted. If they were proud of it, they'd be proud of it. They're not. Follow him on Twitter. He does good. He's doing the Lord's work on this. Finally, I watch the Civil Rights Lawyer channel on YouTube. You should subscribe there after you subscribed to Hoystory, youtube.com/@Hoystory. But then Google or search on YouTube for the Civil Rights Lawyer channel. We've got a lot of good cops. We've got too many bad cops. So a town in Missouri is going to be paying $500,000 because one of their cops got a little drunk on his own power and shot a blind and deaf dog. He said he thought it had rabies and whatnot. But when the local TV news outlet ABC 17 obtained his body camera footage, it showed he was the dog, Teddy, was never aggressive, didn't bark or growl. Woodson tried to catch Teddy with a catch pole, a common tool used in animal control, but the dog simply shook its head free of the rope, which means he didn't need to know how to use the thing, and trotted away. After fumbling the catch pole several times, Woodson drew his gun and killed Teddy. ABC 17 reported that Woodson's entire encounter with Teddy, from exiting his car to putting 2 bullets in the animal, lasted 3 minutes and 6 seconds. And here's the second problem. You've got bad cops, and you've got city councils and city managers who absolutely refuse to recognize that and deal with them appropriately. Yet after the body camera footage was released, Sturgeon doubled down. I think that's the police chief or something. The city believes the officer acted within his authority based on the information available to him at the time to protect against possible injury to citizens from what appeared to be an injured, sick, and abandoned dog. Load of crap. So, owners getting $500,000. This is good. Hopefully, a message goes out. You don't need to shoot animals just because you're a cop and, it's scary. Give me a break. Good news, Woodson no longer works for the SPD and apparently is a process server. ABC 17 reported last week that Woodson was charged with trespassing for allegedly refusing police officers' orders to leave a retirement home where he was attempting to serve papers. Just as an aside, I've mentioned this before, when it comes to people who have concealed carry permits, they've done study after study. They are the most law-abiding cohort of people in the United States, people who have CCWs. Even more law-abiding than cops. See what I'm telling? See? Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here. Again, please follow me on social media. Hoystory at substack.com. There's a free option there. Click on it. You can see what I'm talking about. On X at Hoystory.com, Facebook, Hoystory.com, YouTube at Hoystory. Please watch, subscribe, do all that stuff. If you want to do the paid subscription at Substack, that would make me feel better. Again, there's a free, everything right now on the Substack's free. That's going to change eventually. But you can read a story about my job search, and if I can get my first goal is to get 8 people as paid subscribers, because recent job I applied for, they ranked everybody who applied, and I was ranked 8th, which I strongly suspect also happened to be last. That's what I've got for you, people. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Thanks for joining me.